6:15 at WIBX. Good morning. A day going up to near 50 degrees, maybe not even getting up to 50 degrees, all right? Is that what we're saying now?
That's what we're saying.
And it's going to cool off again before it slowly warms back up into the middle and end of next week. Last night at the auditorium, huge night. Anybody see the results of that game last night? Very, very big. Comets looked really good last night. Meaning, what, Manaski, do we know on the magic number?
Well, I thought that they could have clinched on Sunday with a victory over Syracuse.
Well, I think that might be the case, but I think it had to be a head-to-head win against Syracuse. But they got beat by Syracuse handily, right? I mean, it was not a...
Yeah, they put on a late push and ended up being like 7-. I know Syracuse scored 7.
7-3 after being up 2-0. Last night, though, they handled Binghamton really well, which I think brings the magic number down to 3. So here's what I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. If Syracuse loses Friday night, the Comets clinch. Or if a combination of a Syracuse win or tie, it would be what? It would be like an overtime. They would clinch as well.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure. Do you agree? Or you don't?
Yeah, no, I do.
Yeah.
I know it's very close, and the Comets are closing in.
I hate to sound ignorant, but how does the point system work? Because I really am a bit confused on. I mean, it's easy in baseball,
right?
It's a little more complicated though in hockey.
How many points for a win, loss, tie, and is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
So you get 2 for a win, nothing for a regulation loss. But if you go to overtime or a shootout, if you win, you get 2 points. If you lose in an overtime or shootout, you get 1.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
all right. So that is. We need another playoff run, second playoff run in a 3-year season. Pretty cool, pretty impressive. Is one of those, and he passed away at the age of 79 due to complications from pneumonia.
It was on his birthday too.
It was on his birthday. How does that happen?
I don't know, but I just
I guess just by chance, right?
Yeah, a good friend of mine whose grandfather just passed away actually on the 4th, passed on his birthday as well.
Anyway, Merle Haggard, country music had this thing, and rock and roll had this mystique where it's sex, drugs, and rock and roll and all of that. But country had its own. And these guys he was among those real, I mean, they lived a pretty hard life. Those guys, Hank Williams Sr. and Hank Williams Jr. and Merle Haggard and all of those guys. He was one of those. And I think I saw Merle Haggard once cocked on stage. Really couldn't remember all the words, and the words that he did remember, I'm not sure they came out exactly the way they were supposed to. In the work at a country station, you get to go to all those country events.
It was still a great concert, I bet, though.
Yeah, I guess it was. Because probably the people in the audience were, I believe if your beer slur when you sing, your beer slur when you hear, and it all kind of meshes. It's like two babies understanding what the other one is saying, I guess. Nobody else does. The Masters getting underway today. I have some amazing photos I was looking at of Derek Bard out on the course, and it is. I mean, you just look. There's an excitement in his face, but also an intensity that I think is pretty amazing. We had Derek on the other day. And what do we know we're going to be able to see? TV coverage. ESPN has coverage today and tomorrow, I think. But there'll be plenty online, right, where you hopefully will be able to see certain holes that are online.
I believe you can focus on different holes when you're online, right? But the TV coverage, if he's doing well, they might show him and emphasize the fact that, hey, this kid's still an amateur and he's a college student. But, right, I mean, a lot of the TV coverage, especially on ESPN, is going to be dedicated to your Mickelsons and Dustin Johnson, who's the other kid with the Puma stuff? Who always wears the Puma stuff, Andrew?
Ricky Fowler.
Ricky Fowler.
Yeah.
I mean, that's who they're going to follow.
But on those turns online, you see everybody who comes through,
Yeah,
which is kind of the cool part. For us, there'll be a lot of social media, a lot of that, or sort of online thing, and catching certain glimpses of the kid. But what an experience for Derek Bart, and then for his brother, the high school senior who gets to be his caddy. Really, really pretty awesome. On the line right now is Tanya J. Powers. The campaign, folks, it's been since, I think maybe Tanya can correct me on this, but I think maybe 1992 since a New York primary has meant anything, but we're in for a hootenanny. Good morning, Tanya Powers.
Good morning. You know what? I think that you could say that too about a lot of states.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because usually, I'm from states where we never get to our vote is, by the time we vote in a primary, half the candidates are already out, and you're like, okay, well, we'll go to the polls anyway. And,
right.
But it is definitely this way, especially in the Democrat race, which is going to be really. I think that one's an interesting one to watch for New York.
Let's start with that one because the days where Bernie Sanders, now he's saying he made a mistake in the beginning, that he should have taken the gloves off, should have hammered Hillary on the email situation and all of that stuff, and he's regretting it now. But it seems like the gloves are off on both sides.
It does seem, yeah. And if you saw that recent video where she said she's sick of him saying things about her, and I mean it looks like it's getting to her. It's apparently getting to him because like you said, the gloves are off on both sides. And this one's a big one because I believe this is the second largest Democrat delegate count behind California. Yeah,
and it's not just here. We have this California, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, all coming up. These are big states, which probably Bernie Sanders is at a disadvantage. But New York is one that I think is a loss for Hillary. I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, even if she wins, but by a small margin.
That's an interesting analysis because, there are people, depending on who you talk to, you got folks who say, well, she served in the Senate, and, she's been really good for New York. I mean, her supporters keep talking about her Senate time and things like that, and the fact that, Bill Clinton moved his office to Harlem when he got out of the White House, and, of course, their Clinton Foundation offices are now here in Midtown Manhattan. They've got, to say New York ties is an understatement. But you do have, hometown guy Bernie, and that's gonna count for something.
Right.
So I think that New York, like you said, for the first time in a long time, I mean, some of these states that we have primaries and caucuses in are really counting. I mean, it's not that they didn't count before, but they really are now.
Yeah, we talked to Gabby Cabby, Peter Franklin, who's a New York native that speaks to radio all across the world, and loves the fact that these are two New Yorkers going head to head.
Yeah, and I mean on the Republican side, it was an interesting thing. You kind of got to give Ted Cruz props for coming to the Bronx.
No doubt. Yeah, because he said some things.
Actually going.
Yep.
He did not get that big of a reception from what I understand. As far as there were people who clearly did not want him there and told him so, and made headlines and sound bites for it as well. But this is Donald Trump's backyard. I mean, they had to know there was going to be some pushback when they got to New York City.
And, of course, Cruz's comments about New York values didn't help.
No.
And this would be a Kasich moment here that no one is really paying much attention to. But Kasich probably could do better than Cruz in New York.
I think he could, actually, simply because he's not waded down into the mire with everybody else.
Yeah.
He's kind of tried to keep that profile that's more, I won't say more presidential, but that's clearly what he's going for.
Well, he fits too better with a moderate Republican base in New York, I think. One last thing on the other side, on the Democrats, if you would allow me to. A lot of people, let's say what I was going to say with Peter Franklin is two New Yorkers going head to head, but is Hillary Clinton a carpetbagger? She's not a native New Yorker here.
She's getting a lot of that. And, I think that's one of the reasons her supporters are trying to, focus on the fact that she was a New York senator and, the stuff that she did, in her time here. And I think that's why they're hammering that so hard because it's like, wait a minute, Hillary's hometown? No, hold on, and I think you got a really good point there.
Interesting stuff. It's going to be a long 2 weeks or a week and a half, I guess, what we're looking at. Tiny Powers, thanks so much for coming on.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, Christine will do news coming up in a second. Do you think that carpetbagger thing is
I don't know, because I think it's more now in the national spotlight, because when she was running here, they tried to make that stick, but she still won.
And, I got to tell you, and I know people will hate to hear this, but if you talk to legislators, and I'm not talking about, liberal Republicans who backstabbed the party. If you really talk to legislators around the state, she spent time upstate. She spent time going from, she spent time here. And I think made an impact here on a lot of people. Whether you want to hear that or not, you laugh. Impact could be bad too.
No, I just laugh because I could, she's got street cred. She's done a bit upstate.
Yeah,
so.
She's done her upstate stuff. You saw her milking a cow with her hands. I mean, that makes her upstate.
Which some would argue
I don't know if that ever happened, but
that
probably.
maybe if this FBI thing doesn't go her way, she will be doing a bit upstate.
It might be, yeah, because that's where they send them. They send them right up here, right? Today, by the way, just for everybody's information here this morning, is National Beer Day. Nagel will be in later on this morning. Andre Reed was in town last night. He was over at Hall of Fames in Yorkville, and I want to give the props out today. I sound so hip when I say that to the guys over at Hall of Fames, because they do a great job of bringing sports figures into the area that might not make it into the area. Cooperstown always gets a pretty good crowd up there, and at the Baseball Hall of Fame and through the shops out there. But down here, we normally don't see it, and if it wasn't for Hall of Fames bringing people in, we wouldn't. And bringing Andre Reed in, very cool. We'll talk to him in the 7 o'clock hour, I believe 7:34 and 30 seconds, somewhere in that range to the second. We'll have Andre Reed on. Also, I'll tell you that that's all I can tell you. At least we'll also on. I got a bunch of stuff to get into. A lot of things to move along with here on a Thursday morning. Hold tight. We're coming right back at WIBX.